Hi Dad, just thought I'd take another quick video for you to have a look around at what we've been doing. That there is the entrance to the property, the driveway through there, and this is the driveway that goes through the back of the place and gives you access to the house down there if you need it. And down through there is the main driveway, and I think you can see my car just through there. And so up here, because the soil's a little softer, is where we've decided to build this polytunnel. So the hoops were here on the property when we bought it, but none of the other parts to put it together. So I've had to do a bit of reading and research and get some various bits to put it all together. It's about 15 meters long and 4.5 meters wide. And you'd come down here, and this will be the front doorway, obviously. And you go through here, and obviously you've got all your soil and everything on the inside here. And there's 6 hoops, spaced about 2.5 meters apart. And this comes down to the end one, and this is where we've run into a bit of difficulty because the end one we didn't realise was bent out of shape quite badly. So I think you can see the inner hoop. This one here is the actual polytunnel hoop, and it's, as you can see, compared to the other ones, quite badly out of shape. It's pushed off to one side, something must have fallen on it at one point. So what I've done here is, as I've installed the door, I've put some runners up and just run a bit of irrigation tubing pipe, which is a flexible pipe here, and joined it on at the base, to be completed of course, and nailed it on top of these to give it some sturdiness. And this is connected to the hoop at the back, if you can see, strapped on, and that way I've been able to basically reconstruct the shape of the hoop across the top there. And again, that needs a bit of work. You can still see it's a bit proud, but I'll bring that in. And again, it's supported up through there, and that's going to be the back doorway. And so it's quite a bit of space, quite a bit of work, and hopefully be able to grow a lot in here as well. So we're nearly at the point now where we're going to put the plastic over the top of it, and that'll turn it into one big greenhouse. And as you can see here, the sun is up through there. So that is east, that's north that way, and that's west. So the sun basically goes this way, which means that during the day from about 9 o'clock in the morning through until about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, this whole side of the tunnel will be getting sun. And the plastic is a diffusing plastic, so it should diffuse the light through onto the other side, and give it a nice warm glow inside. So I think what we'll end up doing is perhaps having a permanent amount of tropical plants that like the heat and the sunlight probably down the back here, and then we'll use the front bits for vegetable gardening and the rest of it. So to hold it together, there's all these wooden poles, again 2.5 meters long, and they're all nailed together and mounted onto the top with P-clips, and then there's some triangle mounts on the side at the front and the back, and down the other end down there. And that means that the whole structure is basically connected together, and it's fairly rigid. So if I give this a bit of a push, the whole thing can't move over because each hoop is kind of pushing onto itself. So it's fairly sturdy. And the plastic, there's 2 ways of mounting it. One is to dig a trench all the way along here, which is what I've done here. But that trench needs to be about 1 foot wide, and I think they said 3 feet wide and 1 foot deep, or perhaps the other way around. 3 foot deep and a shovel width in length. and then you put the plastic down into the trench and backfill the soil back over it, and that holds it into the ground. However, because of the sheer size of this thing and the fact that we've got some rocks in and around here as well, we may go for another option, which is to put planks of wood like that all along the ground here and just connect it onto the planks of wood. But we just have to make sure it's securely in the ground before we do that, because obviously if you bury the plastic, that burying is what holds it in place, the weight of the earth. So we'll work on it. While I was doing this, Ben's collected all the rocks that we've dug out and from around the area and put it into this nice little garden up here, which kind of spirals around and goes up here, and we've put some seeds in here, but they've only just started sprouting up, and as you can see the spiral comes all the way up, so it's interesting. And if we go back down here, a friend of ours back in England that Mum met called Danny sent us these, which is very nice of him. Two lovely big hammocks. Air lounge, they're called. And they're great because the wooden bar keeps it open in the middle. And this is kind of a weatherproof plastic and a weatherproof netting and a weatherproof pillow. And hopefully everything should, there's not much rain under here either because of the trees. And it's just a nice little kind of area in here. Lovely to lay in and just listen to the birds and watch the sun, watch the tops of the trees. So what I was mainly going to show you today anyway was the bit that we found after I took the last videos, which was the nursery plants that are down here. Mum saw them the other day, and just wonder if there's enough light for this. Yeah, there should be. Okay, so this is the second paddock. That's where the car is, and that's where you drive in up that way, and it's up there to the house. But if you come in down here, this is where he was, well, the previous owner at some point, one of the previous owners, has obviously been growing his own trees. We've got, oops, can you see that? Wallaby. Where is he? Very quiet, you might be able to see him. I'm sure if I walk down there he'll move and then you'll get a better look at him. No, I think he's gone off anyway. Alright, so if we walk down here, I think we showed you this is about the only tap that actually does work in the property currently, although we're working on improving that. And this is where some beds were cut in the ground. And I think before I just showed you through there and said, oh, that's the other bit of the garden, but you can see there's some really unusual trees around here. There's this weird one that we showed Mum with these beautiful big white flowers that the leaves turned colour and made these flowers. They smell fantastic. It's starting to die off a little bit now, but they're so bright they almost glow at night time. You've also got this weird kind of tropical tree here, which is very out of place for cold Tasmania. Gives you an indication that someone's put something unusual in here. So if we continue this on, oh, and by the way, this is the hose that Mum installed when she was here, that goes from that tap all the way down through there, about 60-70 meters odd, to the back of the fruit garden, so we can get water to water the fruit garden without having to go all the way to the tap. Right, so if we walk through here, if you see these trees that are just normal wattle trees, they just go straight into the ground. You just see the trunk basically goes into the ground like this. But as you go in, you notice that these other trees have something around the base, and I think I showed you this before where down in the other paddock, it's where they used to be in bags. And this is an old Hessian bag. And they were obviously put here and allowed to grow for a little bit with the idea of just picking up a Hessian bag and selling it off at some point. But that's not happened, and the trees have just been left here to burst out of their pots. And I mean, just to give you the idea of how big some of these are, there's they've been here for quite some time, to say the least. So I think you asked at one point, is there any possibility of moving them? Well, you can see, no, there isn't. Unfortunately, there's no possibility of moving these. And the other giveaway is, as you can probably notice, is that all the trees are in rows, which again is how you would set up a nursery, isn't it? You'd set them all up like this. And as you walk through, you again come to these, a bit hard to see the leaf arrangement, but this is an unusual variety. And again, they're in pots. There's another one up there which is in the row, and in front of it a native tree has just grown, so there's no pot around it, but you can see the pot and the one in the background. We come down here, you can see there's another row of 4 or 5 trees, all in pots. You come across, there's more, and they're grouped in species as well. So for instance, these 2 here are the same, these 4 over here are the same, the 4 over there are the same, but obviously different to each other. There's some in spaces here where obviously there was a tree in a pot, but someone's come and collected it. Well, it's been taken out and just the pot's left. So coming down, I assume every one of these was at some point a nursery tree, which has since been left and grown this kind of naturalized semi-forest area with quite a mixture of unusual things growing in it that you wouldn't normally find or expect in Tasmania. This is a good example. These fir trees, you don't see these anywhere around. This is an imported tropical tree. And yet there's, I think that's one at the front. So there's 1, 2, 3 of those in a row, all of which are in pots. And they've all grown to be an enormous size. We found the other day that I think it's the same one of these, the same trees as those I've just shown you, are these ones here. And this is what I said to Mum, that these trees are still alive, but they're not getting enough sunlight or enough nutrients or water to grow. And I think what's happened over the years is that the native flora, the wattles, like this big one here, has grown up and blocked out the canopy. And that tree takes a lot of nutrients out of the ground, this wattle, which is why I think these 2 are dying off. So it's not a priority yet. We've got a little while to work on it, but eventually we're going to have to come through and probably take down, obviously get someone else to cut down a lot of these bigger wattle trees, which are not rare. They're just almost a weed. And and that will open up these other areas and allow these trees to regenerate a little bit, and the whole area to kind of come to life a little bit. So you can see the in pots, and you come across and there's more. You see this area has really been left alone for a very long time, and really overgrown, but it's come back to a natural balance. It's actually not too bad. I mean, I can walk through here in just normal shoes. I thought I'd show you these two. This is what I mentioned, which we think are something called a red maple paperbark. And you can see immediately that there's this unusual, really bright red bark to it that naturally peels off. And the only thing I could find in terms of reference is again that tree, this red maple paperbark. And there's two of them. There's this nice big one, and then there's another one beside it, which is also quite large, but not quite as big. And again, they need some sunlight, and a bit of attention as well. The leaves on this one are a bit, I don't know if it's got something growing on it. They can be rescued, they can be brought back, but yeah. So if we continue through, again you come across more of these plants in pots everywhere. And you can see they're in rows and separated according to type and species. So after we've probably done a little bit of clearing in here and made it a little safer, a little clearer, obviously we'll have to try and find out what a lot of these are. Maybe find the guy that originally planted them and left them here, or just a botanist who knows a bit about trees and can come out and tell us what they are and give us some history about them. And I estimate there's got to be somewhere in the region of 50 to 80 planted potted trees here. The more you walk around, the more you find. They just keep going on and on everywhere. It's quite good. And again, we come across some more unusual plants. I don't know if you can see this leaf, but this is not from around here. I've never seen it before anyway. It kind of has these spindly bits, and then it comes out to these unusual, almost spiky, bushy leaves. There's a few of those further down, I think you can see. Oops. And we also come to these ones. Again, these are pots. I might even be the same one by the looks of it. Yeah, so that makes maybe 1, 2, and then here 3, 4, at least 5. Oh no, here there's more. 6, 7. Looks like 8. 8 of those weird ones like this in a row all the way along here, in 2 rows actually. And again, this is one of the instances where a wattle tree, this is this one, has obviously grown up in between it. I mean, you can see these trees are nicely spaced. They're well arranged, well looked after. Oh, they were anyway when they were planted. And then in between 2 of them at a short distance, this native has popped up here. And this tree just grows so quickly, this wattle, faster than anything around it, that it blocks out the sunlight. And the big problem with these, and I'll show you this one here as a comparison, is that as they grow taller, the branches below them die off. You see there's no leaves on those branches, and as they die off, they drop. And that's exactly, I'll go around and take a photo of it, has happened to that limb there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's fallen down into the ground here. Now imagine having that limb fall on you, and that's after I've tidied it up with a chainsaw. I'm waiting for the rest of it to drop off. But all of these branches above it, I like that they're all dead. And it's the same with this wattle here. You have a look up, all these dead branches. Okay, that one's mainly twigs, but even then, one of these bigger ones falling on you, you'd know it. And they get quite brittle and just drop right off. It's quite dangerous. So that's our main problem with this area, is that we've got to try and get on top of that. And then that goes over to our little fruit patch over there, and that's the mulberry tree now in full bloom. Lots of mulberries on there. And that's the walnut tree. There's lots of walnuts coming up on that as well. Alright, Dad, well, I just thought I'd show you around that little area so you got an idea of what I was talking about, and have a good day, and we'll chat to you in a bit. Bye.